Hi, welcome to the channel. I'm Summer. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get a salon style blow dry on your own at home that lasts 4 days. If you're feeling like, Summer, that's not possible, nothing ever works on my hair, it's not happening, I promise you this routine will work for you. It is what I have perfected in my own hair over my 18 years as a stylist, also helping my clients to achieve this on their own at home as well. So let's get started. All right, so let's first talk about what are the items you're going to need to create this blow dry on your own at home. So we are keeping it nice and simple, and we're actually going a little old school. You're gonna need an old-fashioned blow dryer. We're not using a blowout brush. We are using a tried and true, classic, reliable beauty, an old-fashioned blow dryer. You will need to make sure that your dryer has a concentrator nozzle on it, because this is a key component for creating a blow dry that's gonna last at home. And then you're also going to need round brushes. So I will be discussing the importance of making sure you're using the right sizes as we go through the blow dryer, but blow dryer, old school blow dryer, round brushes are gonna be your first two things you need. So now we're gonna talk product prep. You're gonna wanna use products specific to your hair type. Now, I do have fine hair, and I am gonna be mentioning some things today that are a little bit more specific to fine hair, but you're still gonna learn a lot. So you wanna start off first by applying your leave-in conditioner. You wanna use whatever one works best for you. I have just been using Pureology's Color Fanatic. I'm actually almost out. So this you're gonna spritz through your hair. You're gonna brush it through just so you get a nice amount of moisture through the hair. They also often have heat protection. So the next item that I like to use, and this is totally optional, I always opt for a root lifter. And I do this because my hair has zero texture. I don't have any frizz really. I have no curl, I have no wave, I have nothing. It is stick straight. So a lot of times people feel like when they have fine hair, if they use too many products, it makes their hair like more oily and greasy, where it's kind of the opposite for me. If I don't use a root lifter, I instantly get more oil and a greasy feeling at my roots because there's just nothing up here. Where the root lifter gives me more texture and kind of like plumps up my hair strands more, that it helps offset and keep some of the natural oils at bay for a little bit longer. So I always use a root lifter, totally optional, but if you struggle with getting really oily roots, maybe try one if you haven't. So all you do is you just spritz this as much as you like throughout your hair. I put it all over my scalp. I do it on the top, I do it through the sides, I do it through the back. I can never have enough, but you would just place it kind of in areas you're most concerned about, and then you're just gonna rub it in with your fingertips. And then once you've put in your root lifter, so let's say if you're not opting to put in a root lifter, you would then definitely want to use a volume mousse. Volume mousse are great really in general if you have any hair type, but for fine hair specifically, they just really plump up the hair and provide that texture that you need to sort of give that fuller feel to the hair, to give it some volume and bounce, and also they offer a really nice hold. So this you want to apply. So if you didn't do a root lifter, you'd put it right in at your roots area, but you really want to focus it on getting it from your mids all the way to your ends. So you just give it a shake, we do a pump, and you'll just spread through all of your hair. And then depending on how long your hair is, you'll need anywhere from 2 to 3 pumps. All right, so now we're gonna move into our rough dry. This is the second step of this blow dry process. A rough dry is meant to just get some of the moisture out of your hair. So you don't wanna start directly blow drying your hair with it this completely damp and wet. You want your hair really damp to put your products in, but you do not want to start the actual blow dry process with your round brush on hair that's damp. You're going to be here forever. It's just going to put more work in that you don't need. So the rough dry is meant to just get the moisture out of the hair. You can lift up with your fingers to start creating some volume at your roots, but you want to just make sure you're blow drying with control still. So use your fingers to keep control of your hair. You don't want to just like it all going everywhere which way. That's gonna give you frizz. It makes it harder in the long run. So just use those fingers, hold your hand out, blow dry that hair with that hand, holding it out to get the moisture out. And you're gonna do this until you get the hair about, I'd say, 60, maybe 70% dry. You don't want it so dry to where it feels more dry than it does damp. You definitely still want the hair to be heavily damp before we go into our next step. So we're now just gonna section the hair off. So real simple. I just come in, I'm right below my occipital bone here, and we're just gonna clip this out of the way. I just use like an old-fashioned butterfly clip. And this is where we're gonna get into making sure you use the appropriate brush size. So ideally, the reason why I like to do this style of a blow dry, the old-fashioned way, is a round brush is gonna get much more control and just overall smoothness to the hair compared to a blowout brush. Blowout brushes have come a great long way. They're an excellent tool. They're really easy to use, but you definitely don't get the same level of control with a blowout brush as you do from a classic round brush and dryer. The round brush is able to grip your hair much tighter and glide through, and then your dryer is directing that airflow. So you have the two items working together to really give you a great finished result, where a blowout brush is just blowing the air straight out. So sometimes it's harder to get control. So your round brush really grips that hair, your dryer comes on top of it, and you're gliding through, drying that hair. Now, blowout brush, round brush, too many brushes. Round brushes, the size is important. So if you want a really smooth, sleek look, you're gonna want to use a bigger brush. This is just gonna cover more area of the hair. There's less for the hair to like wrap around the ends. You're not gonna be able to wrap them so tight to create a lot of that bounce and bend. Where a smaller brush, the hair is able to roll through the hair and the ends many more times, creating a more bouncy, voluminous look. So they both can create volume, but the larger the brush, the more smooth and straight your hair is gonna look. You'll get just minimal bend through the ends. And you can still create a smooth look with a smaller brush. It's gonna be harder for you, so you would just wanna use a bigger one. But the smaller brush is gonna be able to wrap and roll your hair into it to create much more shape. So I will link the sizes that I use in the description below. For my blow dry, I'm gonna be using this one. It's the Cricut 390. This is 2.5 inches, and it's my preferred brush. So you sometimes can use the same brush size for your whole head. Depending on how long your hair is or how short your layers are, you might need to have a second size. But ideally, you can get a good blow dry with just one size, but you wanna make sure you're using the right size for the look that you want. So like I said, the round brush really grips into this hair really well. So you're gonna simply place your round brush in at your root, and you're gonna take your dryer, you're gonna come up over your head. Your nozzle is going to be lying flat on your dryer, and you're just gonna lift out, and you're gonna roll with that dryer, the nozzle on those ends, and you're gonna roll up. So it seems like a lot, but just don't get overwhelmed. Take your time. Brush in, dryer on top, and you're gonna glide through. So you're coming up at the top, dryer, go down, you're gonna roll, 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 and we're coming up, and you just hold that in place, letting that heat up with it all rounded in the dryer. And you can repeat that process till this section is dry. And then after it's dry, you're just gonna simply, you can do it one of two ways. You can come out and just let it fall, and you can see that nice rounded bend. Or you could come in, I'm gonna reheat this up. You could come in and you can opt to twist it out of the brush to create a little bit more shape. Hair types that aren't as stick straight as my own are gonna get a little bit more you know, of a twist with this. My hair is so straight, it just wants to fight me all the time. But you could opt, you know, whichever way you prefer. So I'm just gonna do it with it turned in. So I'm gonna show you that again on my other side here. And we just let that out, and we've got a nice bend on both sides with some fullness here in my ends. So once you have your section done, you're gonna just simply move into your next section. So we're gonna unclip. I just come in with my fingers and I'm gliding across. Hopefully you can see that. And all this hair is gonna get clipped up out of the way. So typically your brush size will also kind of be how you want to gauge how wide and thick these sections are. I have always felt like the bigger the brush, you know, the more thick and wide you could go with your section, but you want the hair to not be like so thick that you can't get that heat through it. So it's always better to do smaller sections as a whole. Think like 2 to 3 fingers, ideally, is what you want to do for your sectioning. So when you go into your next section, I like to just take a little bit of hair at a time, and you can opt to clip the rest of your hair up if you want to prevent that damp hair from resting on your dry hair below. That's optional. I like to do it. It's just an easy way to help maintain that style that you already have, because if you let damp hair sit on this for too long, it just kind of, it's like we just spent all this time drying it and now we're gonna lay damp hair on it. It doesn't make sense to me. So I like to clip the hair out of the way. So another thing we want to keep in mind when we're drying our hair is you want your sections, when they're in the brush, you want them small enough where they're in the center of the brush here. You do not want them so big that it's spilling out over the sides. You're gonna lose control and not be able to create the exact style you want. So you want the section small enough that you have plenty of room here for the hair to move around. And that also helps prevent the hair from like getting stuck, caught in the brush. That's when you start feeling like you're breaking your hair. So smaller sections, so that way you get max control and you're not spilling out over the brush. And then you're just gonna be repeating the same thing, okay? We came up at the root, place that in, grab your dryer, over, and you're gonna glide, wrap, and then we're going all the way up to the top. And it's just a lot of rinse and repeat. Let your brush out, roll. If you want to dry your hair a little bit like this, you can. Go roll and dry. And then again, you can opt to just twist that out. I'm excited. So I'm gonna repeat that through this section, and then I'm gonna blow dry a little further up the head. And then when I come back, we'll discuss how we're gonna change our angle and positioning once we get further up the head and a little bit into the sides. So when we start moving in from really this side point up, this is typically where you want to start seeing lots of volume. For some people, they don't want to do too much volume here because they don't want to add width. So you could choose for your sides to just still work them straight down or pull the hair, you know, straight out how we have been. But from basically this point up, you're going to want to adjust how you lift with your brush if you're wanting to get lots of volume. So volume is all personal preference. I personally can't get enough. So one thing I do want to point out, the beauty of a concentrator nozzle, if you have difficulty like coming in over, you know, to get that nozzle flat and you feel like you've got to really over direct your arm, all you need to do is just twist it. And it changes how high you have to bring your shoulder because it's flat, or if it was like this, I'd have to come up even higher or hold weird and move it around, finagled. Look how much different my arm is to get this flat, where if you just turn it to the side, you're able to keep that shoulder a little bit lower. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm gonna blow dry through these sides to show you. And while I do that, I wanna touch on, again, the importance of why I opt to use the blow dryer, the classic blow dryer, in a round brush. And that's because the round brush itself actually is heating up your hair. So it's gonna get warm from the heat of your blow dryer, and it's gonna heat up that ceramic barrel. So that's gonna help to put heat and to dry the hair on the bottom of the section you're working on, where your dryer is going to be able to put heat on the top section. So they're working simultaneously together to get the hair dry. Because of that, it also allows you to manipulate the hair into the shape you want more than a blowout brush alone. Again, that blowout brush is just dispersing heat everywhere. It's just shooting out from that barrel. You're not getting the same amount of control. So when you opt to use the classic blow dryer and round brush method, you're getting ultimate control in your hair strands, because both of those tools are almost like they're sandwiching the heat. It's like they're working as a flat iron, but not that way, but it's sandwiching that heat onto your hair, so you're able to really manipulate it into the shape that you want to create, which is going to create more hold. So this is why I say this blowout lasts for days on end, and it honestly could be reserved for special occasions because it is a little bit more work, but the work pays off. So another thing you could opt to do too, this is again totally optional, and if I do this, I usually only do it on my top sections. So you can opt to kind of rotate the brush like this at the ends of your hair if you want to like cool it off into that nice bouncy bend shape. Or you can also hit the cool shot button on your dryer, and while your hair is still wrapped in to the brush, or your brush is wrapped up in your hair, however you want to put it, with your dryer on, so you've heated it up, it's dry, you would hit your cool shot button and you would just run that over the brush to cool it down. And what that does is it locks this shape that's in the brush, so it's nice and round. You're gonna get some nice curve and bend. The cool air locks it into place, so it really gives you a little bit more bounce and bend through those ends. So again, I like doing that more so on my top sections just because it is an extra step. I don't feel the need to do it like everywhere, because while I want to blow dry the last, I still also only have so much time. So we're gonna move into our next section here, and once I get in my top sections, I tend to work sort of one side to the next. I no longer do so much of the U shape. And again, I'm gonna take this hair that's damp, and the hair that I'm not gonna be blow drying, I am gonna clip off just because I don't wanna flatten out this hair underneath that I worked so hard for to get full. My husband and I, he said he would take me to my favorite restaurant tonight, which is outside. It's on the Intercoastal. You get to see dolphins and the boats are parked there. It's so pretty, but because it's outside and I am in Florida, I'm like working overtime here to make sure that my blow dry lasts. So when the occasion calls for it, a date night to my favorite restaurant, I pull out all the stops so I know my hair looks good and I know that it's gonna look good tomorrow. So it's worth the extra effort. And then again, you're gonna pull up a little bit more. I'm gonna start lifting more here because I want to create more height and volume in this top section. So it is a little bit more of a struggle, but again, this is only in the very top, and that's if you're wanting lots of volume, like me. I'm a little bit psycho over my volume. And you always wanna keep the dryer on the top side of your hair. So you don't want your dryer to come up from underneath and drying the hair from underneath the section. That's gonna blow your hair going against the way that it naturally lays. So your hair naturally is going to lay flat and smooth. That's what you want it to look like. Whether you want volume or not, you want it to look nice and smooth. So if you come up and you're blow drying with the hair, the dryer, where it's pointing going against the grain of your hair, like if you're coming back at it, you're gonna get way more frizz. So always just make sure to have your dryer coming down and over your hair, never up and under. Now coming into the back can be a little bit of a challenge. Just be patient with yourself. It can get a little difficult, but it's the same idea. You're just doing it backwards or from behind. If you have like a setup where you have multiple mirrors in your bathroom, that helps to see, but you'll do the same thing where you're just placing that brush in underneath, rolling through and gliding, and just do your best. You'll be able to tell if you're hitting it or not. But it is probably a more challenging aspect. And then one thing I like to do too is just feel through your hair as you go, just to make sure you have gotten everything dry, or you can take a mirror and look, you know, but you want to make sure everything is 100% dry. If you have any hair that has even the slightest bit of moisture in it, it's going to cause your hair to fall flat, frizz up, lose its shape and style. So just make sure that every section you're drying is 100% dry before you move into the next one. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch. We're getting there. So in your final top section, so this is right about where I part. I part about right in here. You can opt to blow dry this in like a mohawk style, where you start in the back and you're just blow drying everything forward, you know, doing the same steps, and everything comes forward. So if you were somebody who liked to like flip flop your part a lot, you might want to do that, but I always am going to be on one side. So I opt to just go with where my hair is going to fall, and I will blow dry these in two separate sections, just because my hair works better that way, and I'll lift up, you know, with both of them. So I'm going to come here, try to finagle this, call it good enough, you know, and I always end on my thinner side. I don't know why. I guess because there's less work here. There's less hair here, so I save it for last, so I feel like it's a breeze. But we're just gonna be repeating really the same steps. If you want extra volume or lift, you're gonna wanna over direct the hair over and across here just to get some extra height. That's personal preference, but I sometimes will do that just because I want all the height in the world. But you're gonna go through and just do those same steps. And then to keep this hair out of my face, I like to just clip it somewhat there. It doesn't have to be perfect, because while this is gonna be a perfect salon blowout that'll last you for days, doesn't mean you have to have perfect clipped up sectioning. So same thing, you're gonna lift the hair, put that brush in there. Again, we're still taking our small sections. You're gonna come in with your dryer. You're gonna just go up, roll, and just repeat those steps. I might need to lower myself one last time here for the very tippy top. I also wanted to take time to mention the dryer I'm using for those of you who I know will ask. This is the infrared blow dryer from the brand Sutra. I use their blowout brush quite often all the time, but I like this regular standard dryer for when I want this specific look. I like just that longer neck, sometimes makes it easier to rest the hair on. And then again, it has the nozzle attachment, so you're getting that good direct airflow to maintain control during this type of blow dry. I do have a discount code that you can pair with it too. It's very affordable. I think with my discount code, it'll put you right under $100. So it's a nice dryer overall for the price point, and I like the brand as a whole, so you can find that linked below. Okay, so this is my kind of bang area that I have. Slight, I don't know why I called it a bang. It's more of a face frame. So this you do sometimes maybe want to dry it a little different. If it's a lot shorter, you're probably going to want to use a smaller round brush, especially if you have like a curtain style bang that is, let's say, falling at your cheekbone and you want to swoop more, you would want to go down a smaller brush size. But I just take this and I really come over and across a lot with my dryer. So brush is underneath and I'm going to come all the way over, really directing that hair. And another thing too, because this hair is a little dry, if you have, as you get to the top, sections that dry a little bit, you can, oh my goodness, I did it too much. Don't do it how I did it. You can choose to respritz. So you can keep a water bottle nearby, or you could always like wet the fine side of your comb just to get it a little bit more damp. So that way you get that control, especially if you are wanting to create a little bit of a swoop. So don't be afraid to respritz. So again, we're taking the brush under my section here. I'm wrapping this hair around it. We're gonna come in with our dryer, turn it on. Remember, you can change that nozzle if you need to, and you're just gonna go over direct and you're rolling. Same idea, I'm just bringing it over a little bit more because I wanna create a little bit more of a swoop. So the more you over direct, if you have a side part, the more of a little bit of a swoop and bend you're gonna get. If you have a face frame or you have some sort of a bang. If you keep the hair really long, it's not gonna swoop the same. But if you've got somewhat of a layer to the hair here, over directing it over is gonna create a lot more bend for your hair. Then I've hit that cool shot button because I really wanna set this in place. And I'm just gonna come and swoop all the way out and back to give me that bend. So I'm not gonna try to touch it because my hair falls so easy. So I'm just gonna get this final top section dry, and then I'll show you guys how I do my finishing touches. Okay, so the hard work is done. So at this point, I don't want to touch my hair right away. I know I do the cool shot, but I do like to just kind of like let it sit for a minute. As I'm touching it, I try not to touch up top. So what I do at this point is I will gather the products I need to finish the look, which I like using a hairspray and an anti-humidity spray. I typically use Amika's The Shield, but I ran out. So we have the options of Living Proof, their Instant Defrizzer, and Garnier Fructis, their Sleek and Shine. For my hair, I don't really have a super preference. They actually both work great. This is not gonna give you any hold. This is just for an anti-frizz to use on your hair dry afterwards. There's no hold to it, where this is gonna give you a little bit more hold. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're somebody who needs the anti-humidity protection, one of these two options are gonna be great, but if you want hold, the Garnier, it's an amazing product, honestly, and it's very affordable. But my hairspray, I prefer Moroccan oils. Use this, I don't know, over a decade now. Can't pry it from me. So at this point, I like to just let my hair settle, and then I'll come in with either my comb or my brush, and I just kind of, with the wide side of the comb, kind of glide through a little bit to fluff. Nothing crazy. And if you want to do some teasing, you can. I typically am a teaser, but I've been embracing my hair like looking as is as of late, and I don't hate it. Sometimes for extra volume, I'll like bring my part over more back here. I just like the way that it lays because I kind of have like this weird hump, but that's personal preference. But if you wanted to tease, you would just come in the areas that you like to do it. And I like taking the wide side of my comb, and I will do a spritz of hairspray, just lightly, nothing crazy. And then I just like to come down, I go like 1, 2, 3. And then I just do another light spritz, and we'll let that fall. So that just kicks it up some, and then you can just lightly comb down over it, and that just kicks it out a little bit. It's all personal preference. I tend to always tuck this side And I probably flipped way too much hair here. I look a little crazy. But yeah, so you just set it to whatever you're comfortable with. Tease it if you want. Get your part line straight. I'm having a moment. I need my mirror. So I'm gonna finesse this, add a little bit more teasing in here now that I did that, and then I'll show you guys my final look. All right, guys, here's the finish and final look of our salon style volume blow dry. I promise you this is well worth the effort, and it will last you for whatever fun you have planned. If you want to have a good date night out with the friends, whatever, but you are not going to have to mess with your hair for extra days when you do it like this. So just remember those steps we talked about all throughout the video. And again, you want to use products that are meant for your hair type and desired outcome for the look you are going for. So everything used in today's video can be found linked in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed today's tutorial. Let me know in the comments if you did, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.